What you are about to watch may have changed women's tennis forever, not simply because a 21-year-old star shook the world, and not just because an upset almost nobody saw coming actually happened, but because of everything that came with it: thousands of passionate voices, a sea of Philippine flags, and an entire nation watching from the other side of the globe. This was more than a tennis match. It felt like a movement, and Cincinnati, Ohio, suddenly became the center of the tennis world. Alex Eala walked into the $7.44 million Cincinnati WTA 1000 and immediately made her presence felt. The Lindner Family Tennis Center transformed into a sea of Filipino pride, with fans filling the stands, flags hanging from the railings, and chants echoing throughout the venue. The noise never seemed to stop, and the atmosphere was unlike anything this tournament had experienced before. In the middle of it all stood a young woman from the Philippines, seeded 17th and competing in the Cincinnati main draw for the very first time, yet playing with the confidence of a seasoned champion as she dismantled Elena-Gabriela Ruse in straight sets. Almost nobody predicted this kind of opening, but perhaps they should have. Because to truly understand what happened inside that stadium, you have to go back a few weeks. Alex Eala did not arrive in Cincinnati by accident. She arrived as a champion, fresh off winning the biggest title of her career in Washington, where she defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the final. That victory extended Eala's winning streak to 7 consecutive matches and announced to the tennis world that her breakthrough was no longer a possibility, it was already happening. Cincinnati was simply the next stage, and this time, Alex was not arriving as an underdog hoping to make noise. She was arriving with momentum, belief, and an entire nation behind her. In Toronto, Alex Eala continued her remarkable North American run by reaching the round of 16 before a difficult loss to Belinda Bencic finally brought the journey to an end. After months of grinding through the demanding summer swing, Eala finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. "I definitely will take maybe 2 days off," she said with a laugh after Toronto. "I need to get a haircut. I haven't gotten a haircut in a while. My nails are grown out, so yeah, I'll do a couple things just to get my mind off tennis." But that short reset was all she needed. When Eala arrived in Ohio, she was ready, and Cincinnati was already waiting for her. The Filipino community across Ohio didn't simply show up, they mobilized. Cincinnati itself is home to roughly 1,000 to 2,000 Filipino Americans, while the broader Ohio population is estimated to be close to 17,000, and fans traveled for hours to fill the stands and make their presence impossible to ignore. Even before Eala struck her first competitive ball, practice courts were surrounded by supporters waving Philippine flags, creating an atmosphere that felt less like an ordinary tournament and more like a homecoming. Barangay Cincinnati had officially opened its doors, and for Eala, stepping into that environment carried meaning far beyond the result of a single match. She described it as an amazing experience, saying it was special to see the Filipino community showing up, enjoying tennis, and creating an atmosphere that could help the sport continue to grow. She wanted her success to give fans something new, something joyful, and something worth following, and she was giving them all of that and more. But beneath the celebration, there was still a match to win, and her opponent was no pushover. Elena-Gabriela Ruse already had history with Eala, and it was not particularly flattering for the young Filipino star. Their only previous meeting came during the 2024 US Open qualifying rounds, where the Romanian veteran outlasted Eala in a brutal 3-set battle. Ruse was experienced, disciplined, and dangerous. She knew how to extend rallies beyond the point of comfort, disrupt an opponent's rhythm, and force a rising star to question herself when the pressure was at its highest. This was not going to be an easy first-round assignment for Eala, and with the Cincinnati crowd watching every point, she was about to discover just how much she had changed since their last encounter. Eala knew exactly what she was walking into. After defeating a veteran opponent in the opening round, she arrived in the second round with confidence and a clear understanding of the challenge ahead. "They can maybe relax a bit," she told the crowd with a smile, "because they will see me on court very soon." It was playful, confident, and light-hearted, but behind that smile was a competitor who understood that Ruse was not coming to Cincinnati simply to make up the numbers. She was coming to win. What Ruse could not account for was just how much Eala had developed since their previous meeting. The player who stepped onto the court in Cincinnati was not the same teenager who had battled through qualifying 12 months earlier. This version of Alex Eala was a WTA champion, a top 20 player, and a competitor who had already faced world-class opposition under enormous pressure and emerged stronger on the other side. From the opening games, that evolution was impossible to miss. Ruse came out aggressively, holding serve early and immediately testing Eala's backhand, while both players spent the opening games carefully studying one another, probing for weaknesses and refusing to give away easy points. But as the rallies grew longer and the Cincinnati crowd became louder, Eala began finding her rhythm, and once she did, the match started to shift. In the fourth game, she unleashed a whipping forehand down the line before following it with a precise cross-court backhand, forcing Ruse deep behind the baseline and into a defensive scramble. Then came the break, and Eala's fist pump sent the crowd into another eruption. The momentum had changed, and Eala was determined not to give it back. The rest of the opening set became a baseline chess match, with both players grinding through long exchanges and refusing to blink, but Eala's efficiency gradually began separating her from her opponent. She landed nearly 70% of her first serves and won more than 71% of those first serve points, allowing her to remain composed even when the rallies became physically demanding. When another break opportunity arrived, Eala did not hesitate. She converted it, protected her advantage, and calmly closed out the first set 6-3. Ruse, however, refused to fold, and the real battle was only beginning. The second set was tighter, sharper, and far more physical. Ruse raised her level, her serve carried more authority, and her returns came back with greater pace, suddenly putting Eala under serious pressure. With the Romanian leading 5-4, a deciding set appeared to be just moments away, and this was the point where the match could have slipped away. But instead of panicking or trying to force the outcome, Eala trusted the game that had brought her this far. She relied on depth, patience, intelligent positioning, and relentless movement, refusing to give Ruse the kind of opening she needed. Even when her first serve was not landing consistently, Eala produced an outstanding performance behind her second serve, winning 76% of those points and neutralizing almost everything Ruse threw at her. She held serve, and suddenly the second set was heading into a tiebreak. With the Cincinnati crowd rising to its feet, Eala walked to the baseline, took a breath, and prepared for the biggest moments of the match. Then she took control. Her clarity during the tiebreak was remarkable. She attacked Ruse's second serve immediately, dictated the rallies from the opening shot, and never allowed the Romanian to settle. Point by point, Eala pulled away until she closed out the tiebreak 7-2. The final score was 6-3, 7-6, 2, with the match lasting 1 hour and 48 minutes. Clean, composed, and under immense pressure, Eala had done it. But what happened next was arguably even louder than the match itself. As Eala walked off the court, the Lindner Family Tennis Center erupted in a celebration that felt deeply familiar. It was the same roar that had followed her through Toronto and Washington, the sound that had increasingly become the signature of her summer. Everywhere Eala played, a community showed up. Everywhere she went, strangers seemed to become family. Philippine flags hung from the railings, fans wore custom Eala jerseys, and children held handmade signs carrying messages like "Fight, Believe, Represent." Chants of "Let's go Alex" continued echoing through the stands long after the final point had been played. And now, the wider tennis world was beginning to understand what was happening. Coco Gauff, the world number 4 and reigning US Open champion, openly praised the impact Eala was having on the sport. Gauff highlighted how Eala was bringing an entirely new demographic to the WTA tour, describing what she was doing for tennis as something truly positive and significant. For Eala, the victory was another step forward on court. For the Filipino community, it was something much bigger, a moment of representation, pride, and belonging on one of tennis's biggest stages. She's a great role model for people to look up to. Those words from Coco Gauff captured something bigger than a single victory. Jessica Pegula, the world number 3 who had fallen to Eala in the Washington final, also had a message for the Filipino fans filling venues across North America. "You guys are helping grow tennis around the world," Pegula said, emphasizing how meaningful it was to see the sport expanding and reaching new communities. And in Cincinnati, that growth was impossible to miss. Fans didn't leave when the final point was over. The Philippine flag stayed in the stands, the chants continued, and the stadium remained filled with noise, color, and pride long after the match had ended. When Eala stepped up to the microphone for her post-match interview, she looked out at the crowd and delivered a message that clearly came from the heart. "Thank you, all of you. I see you guys every week. I see how much you love your fellow Filipinos. That's why I'm so proud to be Filipino." Those words perfectly captured what the Eala effect had become. It was never simply about filling tennis stadiums. It was about transforming them, turning tournaments into places where sport, culture, identity, and community came together. Cincinnati had now become the latest city to experience it. But while the celebration was still echoing through the stands, a much bigger question was already taking shape. What happens when Alex Eala gets to New York? Because Cincinnati was never supposed to be the destination. It was the final rehearsal before the biggest stage of the summer. The US Open was waiting, running from August 30th through September 13th at Flushing Meadows, and Eala was heading there with an entirely different level of confidence, momentum, and expectation. The previous year, Eala had already made history by becoming the first Filipino player in the Open era to win a main draw match at the US Open, but now she was returning as a WTA champion, a top 20 player, and one of the most talked about young stars in the sport. The question was no longer whether Alex Eala belonged on the biggest stage. The question was how far she could go once she arrived there. Eala is returning to the US Open with a completely different identity and a completely different level of expectation. The player who once arrived at Grand Slam tournaments simply hoping to gain experience is now walking into Flushing Meadows as a WTA champion, a top 20 ranked player, and one of the most closely watched young athletes in women's tennis. The target on her back is bigger than ever, but so is everything surrounding her. The attention is greater, the pressure is greater, and the belief in what she can accomplish has reached an entirely new level. Yet somehow, despite all of that noise, Eala's mindset remains remarkably calm. She is not interested in making bold predictions or setting a specific round as her ultimate goal. Instead, she continues to rely on the approach that has carried her through the biggest breakthrough of her career. "I don't have a specific round in the US Open that I say I need to reach," she explained. "The way I approach tournaments is match by match, round by round." On the surface, that philosophy may sound simple, but there is something powerful behind it. Eala understands that a Grand Slam can become overwhelming if a player starts thinking about the quarterfinals before winning the first round, or the semifinals before surviving the second. Every opponent presents a different problem, every match creates a different challenge, and every day at a Grand Slam brings a different physical and emotional test. That is why Eala's patience is not timidness. It is discipline. It is the foundation of the mentality she has built over the past year. She has learned how to stay focused when the expectations rise, how to recover after difficult losses, and how to remain composed when thousands of people are suddenly watching her every move. But while the mental side of the game appears stronger than ever, there is another factor that could become critical before the US Open begins: recovery. Philippine Tennis Executive Director Tessa Mendoza understands that rest may be one of the most important pieces of Eala's preparation for Flushing Meadows. The North American swing has been physically brutal, with Washington, Toronto, and Cincinnati arriving one after another and leaving very little time between tournaments to completely recover. Every match adds more minutes on court, every long rally adds more physical stress, and every deep tournament run requires the body to recover faster than ever. Washington gave Eala the biggest title of her career, Toronto demanded another deep run, and Cincinnati brought another major test against a dangerous opponent. That is an enormous workload, especially for a 21-year-old player still adapting to the physical demands of competing at the highest level week after week. Managing that workload between now and the US Open could matter just as much as anything Eala does during practice. The goal will not simply be to arrive in New York fit. It will be to arrive fresh, mentally sharp, and ready to handle the intensity of 2 weeks at a Grand Slam. Because once the tournament begins, there will be no easy path. The spotlight will be brighter, the crowds will be louder, and every opponent will know exactly who Alex Eala is. She will no longer have the element of surprise that followed her earlier breakthrough victories. Players will have studied her patterns, prepared for her left-handed game, analyzed her serve, and understood that she is capable of beating opponents ranked far above her. That changes everything. But it also represents the clearest sign of how far she has come. A year ago, Eala was fighting to establish herself. Now, opponents are preparing specifically for her. That is what happens when a rising player becomes a legitimate threat. The challenge is no longer proving that you belong. The challenge is maintaining that level once everyone knows what you can do. And that is exactly where Eala finds herself now. Her Washington championship proved she could win a WTA title. Her victory over Jessica Pegula proved she could handle one of the best players in the world when the pressure was at its highest. Her performances across Toronto and Cincinnati showed that the Washington breakthrough was not simply a one-week miracle. She has developed consistency, confidence, and the ability to recover emotionally after difficult moments. Most importantly, she has begun building